Alright, anyways, on to Rogue. Buccaneer. 1 mana for 2/1. Whenever you equip the weapon, give it +1 attack. Whenever you equip the weapon, give the weapon +1 attack. Oh, that's pretty cool. Because, like, one of the things about, this is actually really similar to Auto Barber, but the problem with Auto Barber is it's really weird on curve, because what can you do, right? Like, you don't really want to waste your coin as rogue. You don't want to coin out your hero power in turn 1 and then barber turn 2. Whereas this is very natural. You can turn 1 buccaneer and turn 2 weapon, and it being like a +1 attack. And it's kind of similar to auto barber in the sense that if you want to play it late game, you can still play it on the same turn, like turn 3 buccaneer, then weapon on the same turn. I think this is actually pretty cool. Anyways, Undercity Valiant, 2 mana 3/2. This is nowhere near as strong as SI. You're paying 1 more mana for SI, but like the effect is so much stronger. Like 2 and 1, I feel like Rogue already has a lot of ways to deal 1 damage too. Not that Rogue doesn't have a lot of ways to deal 2 damage, but it's like actually like I just feel like it's a decent distance from. It's not like another SI7, which would be 2 Imba. Like Rogue having that many SI7s, it's pretty strong, but not on that level, I guess is what I mean to say. Shady Dealer, if you have a pirate, game +1/+1. So this is already a card that can maybe make the previous card better. 3 mana for a 4/3 is actually pretty competitive as far as the body goes, and it can be a 5/4 for 3, which is pretty strong. 4 mana for 5/4s aren't good, but there's like quite a bit of a gap between a 3 and a 4 drop. Like Ship's Cannon is actually like grossly OP. Yeah, like if you think of Ship's Cannon, it's like 2 mana every time you summon a pirate, deal 2 damage. That's so strong, Ship's Cannon. And like they nerfed Knife Juggler. Knife Juggler used to be a 2/3 with Knife Juggler effect. They nerfed to 3/2. For cards like Juggler and Ship's Cannon, it makes more sense for them to have more health too. So, pirates could become a really strong thing. Unfortunately, this itself is not a pirate. Maybe if there's more pirates. I still think pirates are a little bit lacking though. Maybe one day. Oh wow, this almost seems crazy. 3 mana beneath the ground, summon 3 ambushes, shuffle 3 ambushes to your opponent's deck. When drawn, you summon a 4/4 Nerubian. It's kind of like a mine. First, I'm going to assume that it works like the mine, and when you draw the ambush, you actually cycle and draw another card. Because if it wasn't like that, that'd be way too imba. Right, like you can actually just ruin your opponent's draw. So I guess I'm going to evaluate it where if they do draw an ambush, they get to draw another card as well, and they get ambushed. It's not like just like that's their draw for the turn. It's really strong. So this like gives so much inevitability to Rogue, and it's actually like something like it's kind of like a secret in the sense that it's a card that you can play and you can get like value later. It's like a way to say develop something without drawing cards, because in Hearthstone there's actually no way to do that right now other than like one, if you would say you're playing around AoE, like you're gonna get Flame Strike next turn, right? You don't want to play more minions, and then what do? You can either draw more cards or do nothing, or like just play bigger minions that don't get Flame Strike or something. Maybe like Brawl, like what do? Well, you can either draw cards or play Death Rattle minions, I guess. It's just it's like something for you to do. It's really like Mill Rogue actually seems possible that it could become a thing, because Mill Rogue can like break a lot of like the uninteractive decks in a sense. Like often there's actually a lot of decks in Hearthstone that just rely on like one specific card. Like I need that Alex Straza for Freeze Mage. I need that Emperor for Combo Warrior or Patron Warrior. Where if you can actually like have a good core for Mill Rogue, it seems pretty strong. And I wonder how good this card would be for just like say a normal Rogue. Okay, so let me do some quick math first. Realistically, you play this around turn 3 to 5. The other players can have 20 cards in their deck. Because you start with like 5 cards, and then you draw one. Like their opponent's not gonna have 30 cards when you play this. They're probably gonna have 20 around, and then you have like 3 of 20. 2 of 20 is 10%. 3 of 20 starts like 15% or something. It's like you can have a pretty high chance, especially like when you start life tapping and drawing cards. You can actually get a pretty high chance of these Nerubians popping like multiple Nerubians out per game. Unfortunately, it's not at the end of your turn or Mirror Entity. It's not as good as Mirror Entity in the sense that they like use their mana on Mirror Entity and then they can't deal with the minion. The minion spawns at the beginning of the turn, so they have a whole turn to react to it, which is a little bit less weak, like not as good as Mirror Entity in that sense. Seems interesting though. Alright, on to Shaman. 3 mana Elemental Destruction. Deal 4 to 5 damage to all minions, overload 5. So this is like Lightning Storm, but it hurts your own minions. Overload is huge, but it's a way for Shaman to like actually just kill everything. 4 to 5 is a lot. I like the RNG, it's like 4 to 5, maybe it doesn't make too much of a difference. Like it's not as RNG oriented too. I guess it makes a lot of sense for Control Shaman, but I just have a hard time seeing Shaman use this because like mid-range Shamans are kind of control Shamans. Like say like Shaman's a class that doesn't play very well playing from behind. Like it's not something like warrior control where like you just play Baron Geddon, right? Because you don't care about killing your own minions. Like warrior control plays in a sense in a priest control deck. They play different ways than shaman control. Shaman control like uses like Flame Tongue to snowball their board. They have like hexes and earthshocks, and I find it hard to build a shaman control that plays purely reactive without board control like warrior and priest, which is obviously what you want when you play elemental destruction because it's killing your own minions as well. I find it hard to find a shell in this deck, and I don't think the effect seems that strong because overload, this is not a 3-drop. It costs way too much mana. It's like an 8 mana effect too. Seems very underwhelming, I guess, and overcosted. And it doesn't have a shell, and even if it had a shell, it still seems overcosted. All right, Mistcaller, 6 mana, 4/4 Battlecry. Give all your minions in your hand and deck +1/+1. So I guess comparisons are easiest to like Emperor and Sword of Justice. It's like a permanent Sword of Justice in a way. Every single minion you play from here on, it'll be +1/+1. Emperor in the sense that I guess the value you get. Emperor gives you like say 1 coin per card in your hand, kind of, whereas Mistcaller gives you +1/+1. If you get a coin for every card in your hand, the coin is kind of like 1 +1/+1 because usually how minions work at least is every 1 mana more it's like +1/+1. Like say Spire Tank to Yeti, Yeti to like there's not a 5/6, but actually there is a 5/6 now. So yeah, it's like things like that. I'm guessing it's not as strong as Emperor, but it's easier to use because Emperor you have to build your curve being really flexible. Mistcaller you can like the coins don't matter in Emperor unless you can actually use your extra mana, whereas Mistcaller you don't run into that problem. And it's overloaded on turn 6 for Shaman, which you have Fire Elemental, best 6-drop in the game probably still. Also, it seems like Shamans don't have that many minions. This doesn't affect spells, and with Mistcaller you want to run like heavy minion deck. And it's also not like +2/+0 where you can play it with like OTK combos maybe, like try to give chargers and like Wind Fury and stuff like that. I mean, it's definitely cool. You can never count a card like this out, I guess, but it doesn't seem super strong either. 7 mana Fearsome Doomguard, 6/8 demon. This seems like a, let's see, you wouldn't play this in Voidcaller over Dread Infernal. Even if you dig it out, it's stronger, but Dread Infernal is like too much better as a vanilla thing probably. It's like too weak, right? You can play 6 mana Boulder Fist, 6/7, 7 mana. It's like way too weak. I think the biggest implication here is that it's a demon, so like your Bane of Dooms and stuff can get a Fearsome Doomguard, which is obviously really good for a Bane of Doom target. I find it hard for people to actually play this. If anything, the biggest implication with Fearsome Doomguard is also playing in Voidcaller decks because there's not a lot of big demons. There's like Draxus and Mal'Ganis, and a lot of like, those are kind of like weird in the sense that they're not like strong minions. Draxus, if it comes out 3/15, well, it's like not bad. It's like not that good either sometimes. Mal'Ganis is like kind of overcosted on its own as well. 9 mana for a 9/7. This is undercosted on its own, but it's like kind of like another big one that you can use maybe, but seems fairly weak. Tiny Knight of Evil, 2 mana 3/2. Whenever you discard card, gain +1/+1. So the flavor in this is like so cool. I don't know how strong it is. It's a demon, which is cool. Maybe you could start running like demon discard decks. I kind of find it hard to believe that demon discard Zoo could be better than Death Rattle Zoo, which is what it is basically right now, like Death Rattle buff Zoo. And it's super hard to like. It's actually hard to discard cards. Well, yeah, I guess I'm not Valiant super strong, but Void Crusher, 6 mana 5/4 demon, inspire, destroy random minion for each player. So what is this for? It almost seems like this is for Zoo or something like that, right? Like destroying a random, if this is your only minion, it's just gonna kill itself, which is bad. You're killing your 6-drop. This is made for like, I guess this is like kind of made for Death Rattle Zoo, right? Oh, like something that goes well with eggs and creepers, things like that. You maybe not even so well with Imp King Boss. It's really well with Implosion. It's like things you want a lot of tokens for this Void Crusher effect. Then if you get a Void Crusher with a lot of tokens, then you can just like kill their minion every turn if you have board control. I'm not too keen to like say trash this card, but it's like I feel like it requires too much setup, right? Like if you actually get it working where you have all these 1/1s, you generally will win anyways. And if you don't, it's super hard. Like the minion is so expensive for the it's like so expensive in the first place, and the body isn't super strong. And you can always just randomly destroy your Void Crusher. I think it would kill itself if it's the only one, or if even if it's not the only one, it could kill itself. Dark Bargain. 6 mana, destroy 2 random enemy minions, discard 2 random cards. This is actually quite high impact, I feel, this card in the game. This could actually make like Doomguard decks be popular again, or more popular. I mean, not that Doomguard isn't popular, I mean like hard-casted Doomguard decks. So I guess the way I'm looking at this card is it could incentivize more aggro-based zoo with like Leper Gnome style zoo instead of Void Caller. Like you would not be using Mal'Ganis or Void Caller in this type of zoo. It'd be like a very fast zoo where you're aiming to discard your whole hand by like say turn 5 to 7, and then top deck Doomguards and Dark Bargains because they are strong top decks. It's just like if you are running that kind of zoo, I still don't feel like you would run things like Tiny Knight of Evil or something like that. Like these cards might seem still a little bit too weak. There's another card that had this effect as well. Oh, Fists of Draxus. It's like the problem with this kind of archetype is that since your mana curve is so low, if you do end up with Fists of Draxus in your hand, which are kind of like dead cards, it's hard to cast it, and then you might just run out of stuff. It really relies on a non-situational cards, right? Like that type of zoo never runs like BGHs or like situational cards. It's like Magnataur to be able to dump your hand. So it's like, yeah, it's awesome when you do have Doomguard and the Fist of Draxus or Dark Bargain. It's just, but then you can't actually dump that card. I guess you can just save it in your hand. It's just, then you might run out of stuff to do. I feel like Dark Bargain has a high impact, could have a high impact on the metagame because it seems really strong. Destroying 2 random enemy minions. Like, if you count discarding 2 random cards like almost nothing, this is like, it can get through so many things. Maybe the problem with this is like, it's best against things like Druid or something, and you don't really have a trouble with Druid already. You have trouble with decks that storm you as that kind of deck maybe, like Face Hunter or Paladin with like Muster and things like that. Orgrimmar Aspirant, 3 mana, 3/3, inspire, give your weapon +1 attack. I guess I feel kind of low impact. Wait, let's see. 3 mana, 3/3, it's like too impactful for Warrior, and every time you armor up, your weapon becomes bigger. Which one would it make the most sense in? Like Gorehowl could do crazy things where you keep your Gorehowl around forever. That's way too greedy though. Giving your +1 attack is actually very low impact inspire. It's like just 1 value. Like, it's not really any better than getting a minion +1 attack, for example, with how like Hearthstone is mathed out. So it's a pretty weak effect and not on a strong body either. I guess I'm not too excited about it unless someone can find out like a deck where like you just keep a weapon, just grow it forever. But then the thing with that kind of deck, kind of like with the Poison Blades for Rogue, is it's just easy to counter because you get ooze when you're playing that kind of deck and you're just like dead. 2 mana, 3/2, taunt Battlecry, give a minion taunt. So you can use this to give a second minion taunt, or you can use it to give your opponent's minion taunt, so you can kill it with a weapon. Warriors have a lot of 2-drops. I don't feel like this could go well in Control Warrior. Probably not like the Dragon Tempo-based Warrior either. It's just like taunt isn't really, like, in order for a minion to have taunt and it being good, it's just like, it kind of has to be more impactful, I guess. Oh, Black Knight combo. Oh, that's interesting. Warriors have a lot of 2-card combo removals though, like Cruel Taskmaster, BGH, Cruel Execute, things like that. It's something. I guess I don't think it's that strong. Magnataur Alpha, 4 mana, 5/3, cleaves. Also damages minion next to whoever attacks. Again, I don't think this is too strong either. It's too weak to removal. 5/3 is just like almost has the same problem as Magma Rager in the sense that it's just like too easy to kill 4 mana worth 3 health, and it doesn't have an immediate effect. So in order for this like to be, I mean, it's like a high threat card, but it's probably not no higher threat than Frothing, and Frothing is much harder to kill too. You're gonna have like crazy blowouts, but I feel it's not strong. It also is like it doesn't even work on a defensive, right? They can just swing a Knife Juggler into it and it won't kill minions next to it. It's only whenever he attacks. I don't feel it's that strong. It's actually kind of weak, I think. 10 mana, 7/7, Battlecry, draw 3 cards. Put any minions you draw on battlefield. So like, I guess Varian is a card that like it's like high skill in the sense that like controller, oftentimes you're playing like say a game where you're playing around AoE and control mirrors, and it's kind of weird. Varian Wrynn is weird in the sense that you can't control it, but it's really good in the sense that you still draw 3 cards. It's not like they're all minions. And against certain matchups, say like Druid or Zoo, for example, this can just blow them out, right? If they like Druid doesn't really have board clear. Zoo, oftentimes you lose going to late game against. Sorry, Warrior, oftentimes you lose late game going into Zoo, just because they're not so fast, where they don't have a late game and they have life tap, and like Varian Wrynn might just like throw down just too much power on the field. I feel like this is like kind of a flexible card too. In a sense, though, it might be hard to use in controller because like you want battle cries with Alex Straza, with Grom perhaps. Like say you're playing this against Priest and you just throw out all your big mains, you get light bombed or something. So I guess like it should be good in some matches and bad in others, but I don't really know if that's like what you want in a 10 drop. You know, it's like I guess it's kind of already like that. Like Ysera is super bad against Priest as well. It kind of feels less exciting for me than the Mage Legendary Ronin, but I guess in some sense it's Ronin, you can build more decks around it, and it's like more of centerpiece for your deck. Whereas Varian, it's could this really be the centerpiece of your deck? I guess it could be centerpiece of your deck against some strategies, but yeah, it's so it depends on what you're playing. You're more incentivized to use like heavy minion type warriors, which kind of not that by that much. Maybe it makes more sense in Dragon Warrior. Like you can think of it as like Ancient Lore. Ancient Lore is super strong, but there's a big difference between a 10 mana and a 7 mana. 10 is going a little bit too far in the mana curve, and Ancient Lore is 5/5. I don't know if it's better than 7. The more I think about it, this is actually pretty strong if you compare it to Ancient Lore, and also if you compare to like Warrior doesn't have good draw effects. I've been even seeing controllers use Bell Rage just to get that little bit of extra cycle going, and this actually draws like this is actually pretty strong. Tournament Attendee, 1 mana 2/1 taunt, 1 mana 2/1s more. This is better than Goldshower Footman. Even though it seems like taunt would be better in a higher health minion, it just trades better, but kind of like a filler card. I guess I'll do the commons. There's a lot of common fillers, and I'll end up with the legendaries. 2 mana, Inspire, gain 1 health. Kind of feels like a filler card as well. Just like a nice Inspire common set card. Low impact, 2 mana 3/2 is not. It's not too weak. It's like they're okay. They're pretty good arena cards. It's like okay. It's not too. It's not excited about it. Dragonhawk Rider, Inspire, gain Wind Fury. Again, not super excited about it either. Even though it gives Wind Fury on a neutral thing. So classes with Wind Fury, like they split Wind Fury up. Wind Fury is mostly a Shaman thing. Wind Fury leads to a lot of really strong things. Say you use Wind Fury with like Paladin or Rogue with a lot of creature buffs, you can get a lot of damage. But there's already a Worgen, kind of not too strong either. Ice Rager, 3 mana 5/2. Even though it's better than Magma Rager, it's still low impact. It's like Druid Flame isn't really used that much, and it's a 3 mana 5/2 sometimes. It even has Beast Tag, and it even has the flexibility. Again, probably probably still too weak. Evil Heckler, causing a lot of controversy. Strictly better than Booty Bay, but 4 mana 5/4 taunt. Still not too strong, because I think 4/5 is significantly better than 5/4 in the Hearthstone meta, or just with the cards that are in the pool. And the taunt isn't that useful on this kind of minion. I'd say it's like maybe not even better than Chillwind Yeti. Frigid Snobold. I did the math on this, just saw the numbers. It seems a little bit too weak. If you count spell damage as +1 power, you wouldn't really want a 4 mana for a 3/6 or a 2/7. Even though Water Mental's a 3/6, Water Mental's effect's really strong. Although having spell damage on a minion with high health is good. I think this is going to be a power card for Rogue and Arena. Interesting. Could this be good enough for Rogue to be used in Constructed? Because it is really beefy. Rogue does not engage in creature combat a lot. So you play Frigid Snobold, the other guy has to kill it with spells. Oftentimes you don't really want to drop minions into Rogue. I think it's actually fairly interesting for Rogue, but definitely strong in Arena. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if, I wouldn't write this card off, actually, in Constructed for Rogue. It's actually pretty interesting. It has it's a little bit different than Ogre and Magi in the sense that it's much harder to kill, but weaker in creature combat. But maybe some decks don't really like to engage in creature combat. Refreshment Vendor, 4 mana 3/5, Battlecry, restore 4 health to each hero. I like to say it's kind of hard to compare as a Healbot, just because Healbot's more oriented towards the effect, but it's kind of easy to compare this to Earthen Ring Farseer in the sense that the ratios are kind of similar. You're paying 1 more mana for +2, which is like okay, like you're supposed to get +2 for 1 more mana, and Battlecry is like restore 4 health to each here instead of one thing. Like Earthen Ring, you can also target it, but again, like it's like different. It's a different mana slot, and like for decks that want to heal, it's probably better to be 3/5 than say even 4/4 or 3/3. Like it's nice to have that extra health for some of these like slow control decks. I wouldn't write it off, not too strong though. I might have like similar playability than Earthen Ring Farseer. And Earthen Ring Farseer is played decent amount of decks, or it's definitely a consideration. So it's like it's a very flexible thing whether you want to play Earthen Ring Farseer or Refreshment Vendor. They're kind of different than Healbot in some sense, because Healbot's actually like almost all healing. Kvaldir Raider, 5 mana 4/4 Inspire, gain +2/+2. This is, I guess, just kind of like an Inspire filler card, not too exciting here. Even with some Inspires, it's not too exciting. Pit Fighter, kind of same thing. At this point, we're always kind of excited about 5 mana Yeti, but the game has progressed in the sense that 5 mana Yeti is actually not exciting at all anymore. Maybe like a year ago. This is just way too weak. 7 mana 5/9. It's like, look, why is it so weak? I don't know. We'll get to some strong cards soon. I mean, there's actually like the dragons coming up, which is what I'm super interested in so far. 3 mana 2/2 Fencing Coach Battlecry. Next time you use your hero power costs 2 less. It's interesting. I mean, it definitely has a lot of use with Inspire. If you count just how strong it is, though, like you can use this to kind of like float mana the next turn. It's like Innervate in the sense that you can do more in one turn, which is cool. But if you're actually just doing it all in the same turn, like say you're paying 3 mana for Paladin 2/2 and a 1/1, not so appealing. Maybe Mage 2/2 and ping 1 damage. None of them seem too strong. Totem 2/2 and a Totem, which is actually not too weak. But I mean, obviously, like the interesting thing about this is you can save this effect and play an Inspire minion at some point later on, and kind of like use that mana. And I do think that's actually pretty relevant. But it almost seems like at this point, like the body itself is actually like kind of pointless. It's just like 2/2 is like a little bit too weak to do anything. It's just kind of there, which isn't so bad. It's a battle cry. I feel like it's hard to justify, like as good as like Farce, like kind of like Farsight. It's like hard to justify, even though you are being able to pay the mana 1 turn earlier. I guess I'm not too super excited about it. I feel like it could go the way of Questing Adventure or something where people are trying to put in their deck and it never really works out that well. Yeah, I can use it at Priest Legendary, but again, I kind of feel like it's just like I just don't feel like it'll just work that well. 3 mana 2/2 2 damage face Smork. Is that even that good? Probably not, right? Saboteur, your opponent's hero power costs 5 more next turn. So the body, like this battle cry is actually free because 3 mana 4/3 is almost like fine in a way, and your opponent's hero power costs 5 more. It's just like it's interesting because you can drop this against the board with Inspire and not feel like you're gonna die to Inspire, but like it's hard to say I'm gonna lock out your hero power where you can like it's just who cares if you lock out my hero power for most things. So it's like a reactive drop to Inspire, maybe. It's also maybe good against, say, Handlock, where they want a hero power some turns. Like, you really want to use hero power. Counter Fencing Coach. Not really. You could use Fencing Coach and still save it. Just don't use your hero power. 6 mana, 8/5, 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. I think these Ogre effects are actually... At first I thought, who cares how you attack, but the Ogre cards have not been played. It's just, it actually matters way more than I thought, and this is like, it's not even that overcost. It's 8/5, 6/7 is the same number. 8 + 5 is 13, 6 + 7 is 13, so it's like a Boulder Fist Ogre kind of, except more weak to BGH. Does more damage but easier to remove. I don't think it's good. Oh, this is super excited about this one. Actually, like, this is actually the card I'm most excited for the whole expansion, other than maybe the Shaman cards I said before. So cool. Like, oh, this is so cool. So again, 2/6 for 4 is not so good. It's like it's not that high variance, right? Like say you play 2/6 for 4, okay, it's not good, but whatever. So you play 3/6 for 4, it's not that much. It's like, it's good. It's like it's better than Senjin at this point. The really cool thing is like not really how powerful it is, but the slot it fills. Because there's no 4-drop dragon that's good in control decks, really. Or like maybe not control decks, but kind of like tempo based, like mid-range control decks in a way. I don't know how to explain it. There's like different kinds of control decks. There's like spell control decks, reactive decks, like Control Warrior and Priest, Control Priest, and then there's like control decks that are more like minion based like grinding style, like Grinder Mage or like maybe like Dragon Warrior, like more minion, like they're still late game decks, but they're more based on minions, and there's not really a card that fits in these slots very well. The cool thing is this is actually a dragon itself, so if you play two of these, the other one can trigger it. It also just triggers other dragon effects, which I find it really hard to have as a 4-drop. There's like no dragon with taunt. It's not, you can't really say Twilight Drake is better than this, because in most of these like dragon tempo based decks, Twilight Drake is not really even usable, right? I mean, Twilight Drake's not too exciting in a lot of the dragon decks, because you don't have the amount of cards in your hand to support Twilight Drake. You're a tempo deck, you want to drop minions every turn. You don't have that much draw. It's more like you want to stay ahead on board. Hungry Dragon goes better in like aggro decks or board that stuff that's gonna more guaranteed board control. Twilight Guardian, also there's no dragon with taunt. Having taunt is actually really big. And also the cool thing with this is how sick is this against Grim Patron too. It doesn't die against the second charge of Death Spite like Senjin or Sludge Belcher, and it's 3/6, like kind of perfect. Like I really like this card, Twilight Guardian. The slot fills. Kvaldir Dragon Mage, I love that kind of style. I feel like it fills a very important slot in Dragon deck. I feel like it's like the final thing that dragons need, and I'm actually making a prediction maybe that dragons are actually going to be pretty good. I wouldn't use this over Twilight Drake in Malygos Warlock, because Warlock you actually have the card, but you can say Dragon Paladin, Dragon Mage, Dragon Warrior. This stuff is good. Recruiter, add a 2/2 square to your hand. This is weird. I don't know what this means. It's too ambiguous. They don't have enough information about this. Kind of like Dr. Boom. I don't know what this means, right? Like, how much mana does this squire cost? Oh, okay. The squire is 1 mana. I feel it's weak. I mean, this is nowhere near the same power level as the legendary. For Inspire Minion, you'd rather have 4/5, since Inspire Minions tend to be better if they can stick on board. And also 4/5 is just way better than 5/4. And I'd rather get a random spell than a 1 mana 2/2, which 1 mana 2/2 is nothing special. Sideshow Spelleater, Battlecry, copy your opponent's hero power. From what I'm assuming this is you lose your hero power, because like there's not 2 buttons. If you just steal your opponent's hero power, or copy it, let's say you don't steal it because they still have it, you're going to lose your own hero power. It's like hard to say how you can build, like you can't build a deck around synergy of Sideshow Spelleater, because all the hero powers are different. It's not like, say, when you're playing against Hunter you want to outsmart them, or when you play against Warrior you want to out armor them in a way. Like it's not like each hero power is really good against itself, and it's way too weak as far as the body goes. I'm not even sure if it's like randomly better. What if you play the mirror, just get same thing? I feel like it's nothing very exciting at all. Last 2 cards. Bolf Ramshield. Whenever your hero takes damage, this minion takes instead. So this is like another counter to Patron Warrior, maybe? This is cool. Like 3/9 kills all Grim Patrons. It's pretty cool in that sense. If you compare it, it's actually like, I guess when you look at this, like, how you compare it to Cairn, right? Maybe. Like Cairn is 4/10 kind of. This is 3/9, so it's smaller than Cairn. But it has like, I guess it has like Spell Taunt in a way, where it can absorb fireballs and power blasts, and it taunts technically, although it doesn't taunt as well as a real taunt, because a real taunt, if a minion attacks your face, they actually take like the damage. Like they can just hit your face and deal damage to the Ramshield, but I guess it doesn't trade that well either. I feel like it's pretty. I'm excited for this card in the sense that at least it's like something that's really good against Freeze Mage. I think we need more of those. It's not Kazan Mystic. Freeze Mage is like one of the most uninteractive decks, and it's pretty good against Patron in a way. Probably not too good. A little bit too weak, I think. But it's like a tech card maybe against Freeze Mage and Patron War. This is actually really cool. This is like this is what we're waiting for. It's a counter Patron Warrior. 7 mana 6/6 taunt death drop for holding dragon, deal 3 damage to all minions. The cool thing here is you can play this without a dragon, get a dragon later, or like this is actually the first thing where like your opponent really needs to keep track of whether you have a dragon, because like right now, yeah, like if you know they have a dragon, you can play differently since that maybe you put them on your Sarah, but this is like interesting in the sense that if you don't have a dragon, like, you're playing around with Death Rattle of Chillmaw. It's super hard for your opponent to play around. Sometimes it'll explode, sometimes it doesn't. And actually, like, just it's so good against Patron. Like, this prevents the whole Patron OTK. Like, you just can't do it through Chillmaw just because you're going to lose your Frothing. Realistically, the Frothing's 4 health, but if you want to do 0 whirlwinds, It actually kills all patrons is the first thing. Frothing is very likely not going to get through either, just because it'd mean that you have no whirlwinds either. And this is actually, it's not just for patron warrior. This is kind of like the second taunt dragon. This is the first taunt dragon. The Twilight Guardian. These are both really cool cards. And dragon decks, like since they're more tempo minion based, slow decks, they do need ways to fight a Face Hunter. How good is this against Face Hunter? Really good. Like this is like it's like a playable big main that actually like can save you against Face Hunter too. It can save you against Zoo too. This is actually probably better against Zoo than Face Hunter too. Like maybe a lot of like the mid range, or like say you're playing a dragon deck and you're playing mid range Paladin, this can definitely save you too. It clears like Horde Master minions and it clears like a lot of the junk out. Whereas I guess Face Hunter is more likely to just not care, not gonna have too much by then, or just silence it. But I like this card a lot. Really cool. Alright, I think I'm done with the card reviews. That might just be my GG card review. I think I've gotten everything at this point.